Millions and millions of Americans who want clean air, clean water, and a healthy nation have concerns about toxins in our environment and pesticides in our food. That's why today I'm repeating my pledge to establish a panel of top experts working with Bobby to investigate what is causing the decades-long increase in chronic health problems and childhood diseases, including autoimmune disorders, autism, obesity, infertility, and many more. Thank you, President Trump. A few hours after the assassination attempt at Butler, I got a call from a safe food advocate named Kelly Means, who's been fighting for many years to try to end the corruption at CDC and FDA and USDA. And these institutions, these regulatory agencies, are actually run by the big food processing companies, the big ag and the chemical companies that they're supposed to regulate. And he said to me that he'd been advising me for many years and on my campaign. And he told me that night that he was also advising President Trump. And he asked if I would talk to President Trump. And I said, of course. And about a few minutes later, I got a call from the president. And we talked. We had a very good talk. Don't you want a safe environment for your children?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you're all having a great and wonderful day. Well, we have some very good news related to Donald Trump and RFK. Now, I will be the first one to say, I don't agree with a lot of RFK's actual policies. I don't agree with a lot of things that he says. However, some things that does make me have of interest. I am a cook, and I try to cook things that are mostly healthy for the people that are in my current household, so that way we are not remain to be obese and unhealthy and die at an early age because of what we consume. Of course. We need to be able to eat better. And one of the things that RFK has done is that he is going to go after the FDA, which is really good considering the fact we would like to have more healthier foods and not be dying by sea oils and etc. So that's all great and good. And I think this is one of the most unifying things that I've seen that has been done since, I don't know, since forever, because it is a Democrat that is joining Donald Trump over the whole situation that has been going on here. And there's more where Democrats are now leaving the Democratic Party to join Donald Trump because the Democratic Party is no longer Democratic. They are a campaign, they are a party of rich people looking down on the peasants, as you would call lower people, and they are the ones that will want to do communism. So I can see why RFK would want to leave this corruption of a sickening party. Not only that, we have the media here completely melting down, crying because of RFK endorsing Donald Trump and the whole situation. It is sad and also hilarious to see the media cry about the whole situation.
Donald Trump found a new running mate. RFK Jr. speaks at Trump's rally right after he suspends his campaign. What's going on, JD?
And David, another thing that happened yesterday, we saw RFK Jr. announce he's suspending his campaign, endorsing Donald Trump. Then he joined him on stage at a rally in Arizona, which I think made J.D. Vance very sad. But how does RFK Jr. suspending this campaign and endorsing Trump impact the upcoming Trump-Harris?
Yeah, so it's something we should not overlook because, look, all along, RFK Jr. was talking Republican talking points, particularly with his anti-science, anti-vaccine, conspiracy theory-driven policies and ideas. That is MAGA talk. That's Republican talk. And so I think generally we always expected him to, if he was going to draw many votes, he would draw them from the Trump campaign. And we're also now seeing some hijinks where they've admitted the entire game, saying, look, they realize that they might be helping Harris, so now he's going to drop out. So we can't overlook what's happened.
First time. Today, RFK Jr. had suspended his campaign, endorsing Trump. Kennedy telling reporters that Trump had asked him to, quote, enlist him in his administration. Now, the latest swing state polls show Kennedy with 5 or 6% of the vote. And so when you think about it overall, you may say, well, that's not a big deal. Actually, if that is the case in swing states, it is huge. It is everything. It is more than the margin between Harris and Trump in some of those same states.
You know, I think this is one of the tackiest things I've seen in politics, and that's a very low bar. Because what we see is a Robert F. Kennedy Jr. who was basically bargaining to see who the highest bidder would be to get his endorsement, right? So what he's saying is that Donald Trump gave him a quid pro quo, is going to put him in his administration. Kamala Harris, rightly so, didn't give him the time of day. I think a campaign that's already wrestling with a label of weird, bringing in a guy who's had to deny that he ate a dog, who's told us he had a worm in his brain, and who stabbed a dead cub bear and then posted in Central Park. Man, talk about adding weird to weird.
You know, Scott Jennings is with us. RFK Jr., as you know, Scott, is a known conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, I was watching that, and Donald Trump last week stood and said in front of a bunch of groceries and said, I haven't seen any Cheerios in a long time. I had Cheerios for breakfast. This was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And trying to get any logic out of that is good luck with that. Because it's, one, you can't understand what he says. Two, if you can't understand what he says. And I'm reminded of a line in Mel Brooks's Blazing Saddles when somebody gets up and gives an indecipherable speech. He says, who can argue with that? That's authentic frontier gibberish, and that's exactly what that is.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're really melting down. They're really not being able to handle it quite well. But there's another thing I want to actually bring up here, because this is something that I think we should point out. They are talking about, they can't understand him, and you can't really understand him. And I think they're talking about his actual condition, which is called dysphonia. Which, if people don't know what called dysphonia is, then I'll probably quite quickly enlighten you, is that dysphonia is the medical term for disorders of the voice. Functional dysphonia is poor voice quality without any obvious anatomical, neurological, or other organic difficulties affecting the larynx or voice box. And it can also be like a hoarse voice, also known as dysphonia or hoarseness, is when the voice involuntary sounds breathy, raspy, or strained, or is softer in volume or lower in pitch. A hoarse voice can be associated with a feeling of unease or scratchiness in the throat, which is something that is happening to RFK, because he can't control it. It's an actual disorder, and when they're going after his actual bit where you can't understand him, which I can understand him quite well. The problem is not me misunderstanding him. I will say it is hard trying to listen to him. His voice can be a bit rough to get through, which I can understand that. But not being able to understand him, that's incorrect. And I think he's actually making an attack on RFK's voice, and that's just disgusting in itself, right? This is the way the media plays. Now, of course, we have other things that we have to talk about as well with, the whole situation with, kind of being more of a uniting factor. We have this here saying, from Dr. Joe Stang, saying, we may disagree with RFK Jr. about many things, but he's right about how the Democratic Party uses lawfare and dirty tricks to suppress Democratic competition and voter choice. The Dems preach about saving democracy, but in reality, they're working overtime to stamp it out. And then, again, we have this here, saying, egg wokeness. CNN and MSNBC cut away from the RFK Jr. announcement. They are panicking. And this is something that we have to say here. Obviously, we're going to do this.
To now dropping out and relinquishing the title of Democrat. He had a series of complaints about the party. We're, of course, going to continue watching his remarks. There's a back and forth.
Pictures from Phoenix, Arizona, where Kennedy is expected to say publicly what he's already made official in a court filing, that he will endorse Donald Trump. Perhaps no coincidence, Trump is set to hold a campaign rally tonight with a special unnamed guest in Glendale, Arizona. That's just 20 minutes from where RFK is right now. Joining me now, New York Times investigator.
So that's what's going on there. But we have another thing. We have another amazing thing. Jimmy Dore says Trump is now way to the left of warmongering Kamala. He's campaigning his anti-war, anti-censorship, anti-mandate, and anti-deep state. Now with RFK, Trump is against big agriculture and the corruption of the FDA. Plus, his idea to not tax tipped wages, and it's very, very, very easy to be left of neocon warmongering Kamala. So that is what's going on here. It says, don't believe me that Trump is now a far, far left to the left of the neocon warmongering Kamala. Watch this. And of course, we have more with this as well. It says, as RFK Jr. was torching Kamala Harris for not doing unscripted media appearances, state-controlled CNN cuts out of his speech. Way too much truth was coming out for CNN.
Over ideas. They would be astonished to learn of a Democratic Party presidential nominee who, like Vice President Harris, has not appeared in a single interview or an unscripted encounter with voters for 35 days.
We've been listening to independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. from Phoenix outlining what...
You love to see it, right? Like, they can't let the truth come out. They can't show what RFK is going to say about the Democratic Party, how corrupt they are, and how they pretty much ousted him away from the party. This is the party that we're dealing with here, ladies and gentlemen. And we have this here from Charlie Kirk saying, the personal attacks leveled at RFK on CNN this morning are not only disgusting, they're exhibit A of why he left the party in the first place. They want to make an example out of him to suppress any future dissent, agree with us or else. And Kennedy just endorsed Trump and they're panicking. So the party of joy resorts to dehumanizing him rather than debating his ideas and policies. Yeah, like I said, the one thing about his actual throat disorder, which he can't control. You're all supposed to be loving and accepting people with disabilities and stuff like that, right, Democrats? Well, you really flipped the script. You really changed your tune when it's somebody that goes against your narrative, goes against your mantra, goes against your cult. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about that. So, again, we have this here. It says, Jimmy Dore gets it. My theory is that they hate Trump because he is on an anti-interventionist platform and won. Then, he actually was an anti-interventionist. He's the only president in my lifetime that didn't start a new war. This is what Jimmy Dore had to say about this.
Do is say you're a terrorist, and they can throw you in jail indefinitely. They can shut down your bank account. They can do anything they want, and then thank God to Barack Obama. And they say Trump is the guy who's the enemy of democracy. That somehow Trump is the threat. Now, my theory is that why they hate Trump so much. And by the way, you're right that they hate democracy. What's the two biggest Democratic actions that have gone against the establishment in the last 10 years? Trump being elected and Brexit. And they hate both those things. Yeah. And they can't let people have democracy. So they do it's such a great, you accuse your enemy of the thing you're doing. Trump is going to take away your democracy. No, you're the one taking away my democracy. Trump is going to prosecute journalists. No, you're the one who's trying to kill Julian Assange. Barack Obama was the one who used the Espionage Act more than all the presidents preceded him to prosecute journalists. It was Barack Obama who did that. It wasn't Trump. All right. So the exact opposite is happening. And people, go ahead, Kurt, you want to say something?
Trump and Brexit, that was like their citizens voting for Hamas in their eyes.
Again, this is something that is unifying the country. And we have this here from the Daily Mail saying, Gavin Newsom makes underhanded dig at Kamala Harris when asked about DNC nominating process. It goes on to say here that, I gotta find it, give me a second here, boys. Now, he goes on to say here, although Harris' nomination remains controversial, Governor Newsom seemed amused by it during his appearance on Pod Save America, which was posted on Friday. It goes on to say, after being asked about the switch by the host of the podcast, Newsom laughed. We went through a very open process, a very inclusive process, he seemed to joke. It was a bottom-up. I don't know if you know that. That's what I've been told to say, he added. Later in the clip, Newsom chuckled that the Democrats had held a 30-minute convention between the moment Biden tweeted that he was leaving the race and the moment he tweeted that he had endorsed Harris. It's been amazing, Newsom said, but before pivoting and changing his tune. What is amazing is how unified everybody is, he said solemnly. Leading figures with the Democratic Party like Nancy Pelosi have claimed that the nomination wasn't rigged in Harris' favor. On Friday, the clip of Gavin Newsom, who's thought to harbor presidential ambitions of his own, provoked the ire of people across social media. Journalist Glenn Greenwald uploaded the clip to his X account and offered a brutal take on Newsom's risible demeanor. The party of democracy sits around golfing at how anti-democratic and vote-free and secret was their process for choosing and then opposing the new Democratic presidential nominee on the country, Greenwald said. So yeah, again, Gavin Newsom is kind of exposing like how the Democratic Party is. What has been going on here? Like, this is no surprise. I think this is a great thing for the country. Now, obviously, it shows Kamala Harris up in the polls, but I don't really want to believe that, mostly just due to the fact that, like, I think there's a huge media scheme going on here trying to give Kamala Harris the most help that we can get. And the House, the whole entire stadium, the same stadium that was with Kamala Harris that was in it 2 weeks ago, was packed full of people outside the door. And this is unifying because it's a Democrat endorsing a Republican. This cannot be any more unifying than you can get. This is all about being a unifying country. I want RFK and the actual FDA. I think he will do a lot of good there. And these are things that we can accept. And the whole Republican Party pretty much just roared and cheered over a Democratic person being a part of the Trump movement. This is not some type of ununifying party or group of people that the media wants to claim it out to be. If anything, we are unifying. We are bringing in Democratic people into our circle and congratulating and supporting them. This is the reality. This is the power of what we have here. We are the unifying part of this country, and we support what we want in this country. We support unification. The Democratic Party is all about division, all about lies. And they all want control and say, and look down onto you and say, hello, peasant. So this is the reality that we are dealing with here. And this is a beautiful thing. And I'm going to be having something be worked in the mix here soon. I'll put it in the Discord and also in the community notes. And, not communities, but in the community page when it's done. Because I think everybody should go and see it. Alright, so guys, again, I think this is a unified thing. I think this is great. And we're on the road to possible great recovery. Alright guys, that's it for the video. Let's share. As always, take care my friends.